London, 1888. A city shrouded in fog, mystery hangs in the air, as thick as the smoke from countless chimneys. Gaslight flickers across cobbled streets, casting long shadows that dance and twist in the gloom. This is the Victorian era, a time of immense progress but also of deep social division. Opulence and poverty exist side by side. Grand avenues lined with elegant townhouses give way to dark, labyrinthine slums where fear and desperation lurk. It is here, in the East End's Whitechapel district, that our story unfolds. 5 women, their lives tragically cut short, connected by a thread of unimaginable violence. 5 victims, forever linked to a name whispered in hushed tones: Jack the Ripper. His gruesome acts, detailed in letters penned to the police, taunted authorities, fueling the growing panic that gripped the city. Fear became a constant companion, lurking in every shadow, turning neighbor against neighbor. Was he a demon in human form, preying on the innocent and vulnerable? Or a man of flesh and blood, driven by a darkness no one could comprehend? The police, overwhelmed and under immense pressure, searched desperately for answers, their investigation hampered by the fog-choked streets and the secrets they concealed. Join us, if you dare, as we venture into the fog-shrouded streets of Whitechapel, seeking to unmask the truth behind the legend of Jack the Ripper. August 31st, 1888. The night, thick with fog and a chilling drizzle, cloaked the cobbled streets of Whitechapel in an eerie silence. A lone figure, Mary Ann Nichols, stumbled through the darkness. Life had been unkind to her, leaving her destitute, her only solace found in the bottom of a gin bottle. Around 3:40 a.m. near Buck's Row, a struggle, muffled by the fog, broke the eerie stillness. When dawn broke, it revealed a sight that would forever stain the cobblestones with terror. Mary Ann Nichols, her throat brutally slashed, lay sprawled in the gutter, her life brutally extinguished. Panic began to grip the East End as rumors of the murder spread like wildfire. A week later, the fog returned, casting its oppressive blanket over Whitechapel once more. On the night of September 8th, Annie Chapman, another woman trapped in the unforgiving cycle of poverty, became the Ripper's second victim. Her body, discovered in the backyard of a Hanbury Street tenement, bore the same horrifying hallmarks as the first. This time, the killer had gone further, mutilating Annie's body with a depravity that shocked even the most experienced police surgeons. The city of London was in the grip of a nightmare, and its citizens were the unwilling participants. September 30th, 1888, a night etched in infamy. Under a moonless sky, the Ripper claimed 2 more victims, Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes. Their murders, committed within an hour of each other, sent shockwaves through the city and beyond. Elizabeth Stride, her throat slashed, was discovered in Dutfield's yard, a narrow passageway off Burner Street. Catherine Eddowes' body was found less than an hour later, in Mitre Square, a small, secluded square in the heart of the city of London. Her murder, even more brutal than the previous ones, bore the unmistakable hallmarks of the Ripper's handiwork. A piece of her apron, found on Goulston Street, would become a crucial piece of evidence in the investigation. The double murder sent shockwaves through London. Fear turned to outrage. The police, already under immense pressure, faced a public demanding justice, demanding an end to the nightmare that held their city captive. The investigation intensified, with hundreds of officers deployed to the East End. Every alleyway, every shadowy corner was searched. But Jack the Ripper, a phantom playing a deadly game, remained elusive. Inspector Frederick Aberlin, a seasoned detective known for his sharp mind and tireless dedication, took charge of the investigation. The East End, normally a hive of activity, became eerily quiet at night. The investigation, hampered by the limitations of Victorian-era forensic science, relied heavily on eyewitness accounts, many of which proved unreliable or contradictory. Suspects, ranging from local butchers to Polish immigrants, were questioned and investigated. Each lead, initially promising, ultimately led to a dead end, fueling the growing frustration of the police and the public's waning confidence in their ability to catch the killer. The press, hungry for every detail, real or imagined, added to the chaos, publishing sensationalized accounts of the murders and speculating wildly about the Ripper's identity. Despite the challenges, Inspector Aberline and his team remained steadfast in their pursuit. The weight of the case, the sheer brutality of the crimes, and the ever-present fear in the air took its toll on the investigators, but they pressed on. As the investigation dragged on, a series of letters, purportedly written by the killer, began to arrive at police stations and newspaper offices. These letters, penned in a chillingly articulate hand, taunted the police, boasting of the writer's gruesome deeds and promising more bloodshed to come. One letter, addressed from hell, arrived with a small box containing a human kidney, preserved in alcohol. The letters, signed Jack the Ripper, gave the unknown killer a name, a chilling moniker that would forever be etched in the annals of criminal history. The police, determined to separate fact from fiction, analyzed the letters, searching for clues to the writer's identity. The fog-shrouded streets of Whitechapel whispered secrets, tales of shadows and whispers, of unseen figures lurking in doorways. Rumors swirled like the fog itself, pointing fingers at doctors, barbers, even royalty, each tale more outlandish than the last. The Whitechapel Vigilance Committee, a group of concerned citizens frustrated by the lack of progress in the investigation, took to the streets, determined to protect their community. Armed with only lanterns and whistles, they patrolled the darkened alleys, hoping to deter the killer or perhaps catch a glimpse of him before he could claim another victim. Jack the Ripper had become more than just a killer. He was a specter, an embodiment of the unseen evils that lurked beneath the surface of Victorian society. The investigation continued, a desperate race against time, fueled by a mix of fear, determination, and the faint hope that somehow, someday, the mystery of Jack the Ripper would be solved. The investigation into the Whitechapel murders drew the attention of the world, casting a wide net of suspicion. The police, inundated with leads, pursued each one with a fervor born of desperation and a city's demand for justice. Among the early suspects was a local butcher, known for his volatile temper and access to sharp knives. His proximity to the murders and the gruesome nature of his trade made him a convenient scapegoat, but the lack of concrete evidence led to his release. A leather worker, his apron stained with dyes that bore a chilling resemblance to the blood found at the crime scenes, was also investigated. But again, the trail ran cold, leaving the police no closer to unmasking the killer. As the investigation dragged on, whispers of a more scandalous suspect began to circulate. Prince Albert Victor, grandson of Queen Victoria, was rumored to have frequented the seedy underbelly of London, his dalliances hidden from the public eye. Some whispered that the prince, driven mad by syphilis, was responsible for the Whitechapel atrocities. The theory, while titillating, was quickly dismissed by those in power, while the official stance remained one of unwavering denial. The rumors persisted, fueled by whispers in dimly lit pubs and the hushed conversations of servants sworn to secrecy. Another suspect, one who has captured the imagination of ripperologists for decades, was a Polish immigrant named Aaron Kosminski. A barber by trade, Kosminski lived in Whitechapel during the time of the murders. His erratic behavior, his documented history of mental illness, and his proximity to the crime scenes made him a person of interest. Despite the mounting circumstantial evidence, the police were unable to gather enough concrete proof to charge Kosminski. Was Kosminski, a man clearly struggling with his own demons, the monster who terrorized Whitechapel, or was he simply a convenient scapegoat, a victim of circumstance and prejudice? Despite the tireless efforts of the police, the countless man-hours poured into the investigation, the mystery of Jack the Ripper's identity remains unsolved. The fog that shrouded Whitechapel in 1888 seems to linger still, obscuring the truth, protecting the killer from being held accountable for his heinous crimes. Theories abound, each one attempting to shed light on the identity of the killer who vanished into the fog as swiftly as he arrived. Was Jack the Ripper a cunning mastermind, toying with the authorities? Or was he simply a monster driven by a darkness that no one could comprehend? The Whitechapel murders serve as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of society, and the enduring power of a mystery that refuses to be solved. Jack the Ripper vanished back into the fog as quickly as he emerged. He left behind a city forever scarred, a mystery forever unsolved. The Whitechapel murders ceased as abruptly as they began, leaving a trail of unanswered questions. Did he die? Did he flee? Or did he simply choose to stop? The fog that shrouded Whitechapel in 1888 has long since dissipated, but the mystery lingers. The case remains a puzzle box, its contents a jumble of tantalizing clues and dead ends. The identity of Jack the Ripper remains elusive, a phantom forever out of reach. The East End has undergone a transformation. The dimly lit alleys are now bustling with life, the shadows replaced by the warm glow of streetlights. But beneath this veneer of modernity, the memory of Jack the Ripper lingers, a ghost story whispered from generation to generation. Over a century has passed since Jack the Ripper stalked the streets of Whitechapel, yet the fascination with the case remains undiminished. The mystery of his identity, the brutality of his crimes, and the audacity with which he eluded capture continue to captivate the imagination, inspiring countless books, documentaries, and even fictional accounts. The Whitechapel murders, a chilling chapter in Victorian history, have transcended time, becoming a cultural phenomenon. The Ripper's image, often depicted as a shadowy figure in a top hat and long coat, has become an icon, a symbol of the unseen terror that can lurk in the hearts of men. What is it that draws us to these gruesome tales? Is it the thrill of the unknown, the tantalizing possibility that we might be able to solve a puzzle that has baffled the best minds for over a century? Or is it a darker impulse, a morbid curiosity that compels us to confront the darkness that resides within us all? Whatever the reason, the story of Jack the Ripper continues to resonate, a chilling reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring power of a mystery that refuses to be solved. The impact of Jack the Ripper's reign of terror extended far beyond the immediate victims and the fog-choked streets of Whitechapel. The case, splashed across the front pages of newspapers worldwide, exposed the stark inequalities of Victorian society, highlighting the plight of the poor and vulnerable who lived and died in the shadows of London's grand avenues. The murders sparked social reform, forcing authorities to confront the squalid living conditions and rampant crime that plagued the East End. The public outcry, fueled by fear and a growing sense of injustice, led to improvements in sanitation, housing, and policing, albeit slowly and often grudgingly. However, the legacy of Jack the Ripper is not solely one of social progress. The case also cast a long shadow on the relationship between men and women, fueling a climate of fear and suspicion that lingered long after the murders ceased. Women, particularly those who lived and worked in poverty, were often portrayed as either helpless victims or temptresses who brought danger upon themselves. The Ripper's crimes, while unique in their brutality, were a symptom of a larger societal ill, a reflection of the misogyny and violence that women have faced throughout history. The case, in its own gruesome way, forced Victorian society to confront its own demons, exposing the dark undercurrents that flowed beneath the surface of respectability and decorum. The story of Jack the Ripper is not just a tale of gruesome murders. It is a story about the enduring power of mystery. It is a story that challenges us to confront the darkness that resides in the human heart and reminds us that some questions may never have answers. Despite the passage of time, the case continues to fascinate and frustrate in equal measure. New theories emerge, old suspects are re-examined, but the truth remains elusive, shrouded in a fog of speculation and conjecture. Perhaps in a way, that is part of the enduring appeal of Jack the Ripper. The unsolved mystery allows us to project our own fears, fantasies, and interpretations onto the blank canvas of the unknown. It is a story that we can revisit time and again, each time finding something new, something unsettling, something that reminds us that the past is never truly gone. So, as we leave the fog-shrouded streets of Whitechapel and return to the present, let us remember the victims, those whose lives were tragically cut short. Let us remember their stories, their struggles, their humanity. And let us never forget the enduring power of a mystery that continues to haunt us, even after all these years.